we're waiting for you. But in the studios, we're going to be talking about a number of very important topics. And of course, we started with the introduction today, where we're taking a look at the Corruption Perception Index and the fact that the latest ratings indicate that Ghana has remained stagnant in the last 4 years. What really is the problem? Do we lack the sheer willpower to fight it? Or, like the report says, it's also because of our deteriorating judicial system, which is leading to more corruption in the country. We'll also take a look at the Consumer Protection Agency giving government an ultimatum to withdraw that 15% tax on electricity. In the studios, I have Awal Mohammed, and he is the head of public relations for the Youth Employment Agency. Happy New Year to you.
Many more happy returns.
How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
You're wearing one of my favorite colors. Thank you very much. Thank you. I like your outfit. Well, we were expecting Mr. Bernard Mona to join us in the studios. Unfortunately, he could not do so. But he sent a very able person to represent him. Awudu Ishak is the National Communications Secretary for the PNC. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
How are you doing? Happy New Year, or Happy New many years, because I don't think I've met you before, so this will be the
happy returns, Bella.
I hope your year has started on a good note.
Well, we can't complain. Once we are breathing, we give thanks to Allah.
Definitely. And also, Godwin Mahama is a member of the National Communications team for the NDC. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning, Bella.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and yourself?
Oh, not bad. We did inside. Small. We're managing. It go be. Hey, the way I say it go be is close to IDB. Are you sure?
It's the same thing. When we change government, it will go well with you.
Hey, when we change government?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay, I see. We're waiting for that. Awal, I'm sure Awal is thinking, change which government? But let's take a look at our stories. And in fact, the first one that we're going to be talking about is the Corruption Perception Index report that's been released by Transparency International. It was released yesterday. And in fact, it monitored 180 countries across the world. And unfortunately, Ghana placed 70th. But when it comes to the index itself, we're at number 43. So we have a graph to show you. And this shows you the index from 2012 up until 2023. So you'd realize that from 2012, we were scoring higher. And the closer you are, in fact, it's over 100. So the closer you are to the number 100, the better your fight against corruption. It means that you're doing a good job in fighting corruption. But if you go below the 50 mark, then you should know that you are in trouble. So in 2012, of course, you could see that we're doing well. 2014 as well. 2016, there was a bit of a decline up until 2018. But if you study from 2018 to 2023, you'd realize that we have not moved. We still occupy the same index, which is 43 over 100. And that shows clearly that we are not doing enough, or we have not done enough in the last 4 years in fighting against corruption. And so some recommendations were made in the report, if you read further down. And it says that the executive should urgently take steps to lay the conduct of the Public Officers Bill, so that way people who declare their assets will have it published. The law at the moment does not say it has to be published. It's only when there's an issue that the Auditor General will have to publish your assets. But we're hoping that if the Conduct of Public Officers Bill is passed, then clearly all assets will be declared, they'll be published, and everybody will know exactly what you came into office with and what you're leaving office with. The executive and the legislature must take steps to bridge legal gaps for the prosecution of selected corruption cases outside the current legal framework. The government must give justice system resources and transparency needed to effectively punish all corruption offenses. And that's a major point there as well. I mean, the special prosecutor a few months ago was decrying the lack of support and the lack of support from the judicial system, even there as well, to even prosecute the cases. And before that, he had complained 5 months into office about not getting the resources. But the report also says that the reason why we're facing a lot of these challenges with regards to corruption is because of the deteriorating justice systems that has led to the reduction in the accountability of public officials, and then that is leading to thriving corruption. And so that's the problem. We'll try and dissect and see what can be done about it. But let's listen to the Special Prosecutor, Kisei Jabin, yesterday, as he also gave some recommendations as to how we can stem this as soon as possible. Take a look.
We write anti-corruption law enforcement institutions into the Constitution, especially the flagship office of the Special Prosecutor. May we enlarge the powers and mandate of anti-corruption law enforcement institutions. May we assure anti-corruption law enforcement institutions the flow of adequate resources. May we assure, in actual practice, the independence of the judiciary. May we set up a specialized anti-corruption court manned by especially trained judges in the field to swiftly and efficiently deal with corruption cases.
But if that's the case, citizens have to report. And if they report, are they willing to go through the entire process to ensure that they also provide some more evidence? Now, the head of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, COP Mamiya Tiwa Adodankwa, has expressed frustration about this matter. And she says that, yes, there are people who report initially, but when it comes to gathering evidence, you find them nowhere. Take a look at that as well.
But at the end of the day, one thing that we should always remember is that when you are prosecuting corruption, it's not about what you think. It is about the evidence that you have. If you don't have evidence, you don't have a case. And that is what the public must understand. So people make wild allegations, and when it comes to providing evidence, then they chicken out.
How do you deal with the criticism that you should be more proactive, like even the SML case when Manasseh came out with it? Like Yoko should have been the first to investigate it.
We take them in good faith, and we always learn. We take them in good faith. When somebody says you should have done this, you look at what the person is telling you, and if you think that is what you should have done, you learn from it, and next time you adjust your strategies, and then you move on and you become a better person.
Thank you so much.
All right, well, let me start off with Awal at this point, and we'll take a look at the point where President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo took over office. And up until 2023, it's been a number of years, about 7 years so far. In fact, we're in the 8th year. And if you look at the score from 2017, we scored 40 over 100, 2018, 41, 2019, 41. Then from 2020 to 2023, we've scored 43. So if you look at these numbers, then clearly we're not doing much to fight corruption, are we?
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and good morning to our cherished viewers and my colleagues on the panel. I think I am happy that this thing has come at this point in time where we can have a discussion. And again, when you played the Office of the Special Prosecutor, the Special Prosecutor himself, that is Kisia Jabin, talking about, because in your preamble you mentioned that he came out to talk about budgetary allocation and some funds and so on. That thing is a thing of the past. Looking at the amount of money we have spent in the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it's close to 500 million Ghana cedi, to the extent that we're able to get his office completely done. He's been able to employ not less than 400 people in his office. The last time he held the press conference, he mentioned that indeed he even told the media that check this place. Now, funding has not been a problem for the Office of the Special Prosecutor and the other agencies of state that fight corruption. But let me begin by saying that the president came in with a banner that he will fight corruption, and he really came in and made sure that almost all the things that will be put in place to fight corruption was in place.
Like what?
So when the president came in 2017, he set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor in 2018 to make sure that at least he fight corruption and corruption-related issues. Again, when you check the budgetary support of SHRAJ, Auditor General's Office, and almost all the agencies that are mandated to fight corruption, it has moved tremendously up.
So you're talking about funding, but how effective has the Office of the Special Prosecutor, for example, been? Martin Amidu, he put out a long epistle and even referred to the president as the mother serpent of corruption. That also came after
that was an adjective, yes.
That was an adjective, but yes. He talked about how he was even struggling to put out the case concerning the Japa deal. And, you know, that was the beginning of his woes. Eventually, he left office. And then we have Kisia Jabin, who also came recently and says that even the judicial system is frustrating his work to a large extent. So, yes, you may have provided some funding after some months, but how effective has it been? Okay,
so effectiveness of the work depends on the individuals there, not the president. The conducive environment has been laid by the president, which you admit that indeed the president has done well.
But Martin Amidu says that the president was the one interfering with his work.
Martin Amidu's epistle and even his reasons for resignation, he did not say that he wanted to prosecute Ajapa. Ajapa, what happened with Ajapa was that the president referred Ajapa to him to do corruption risk assessment. He did the assessment. And on the basis of that assessment, the president said, let's halt the implementation of Ajapa, move it back to parliament. What does Martin Amidu want the government to do again?
He says the president was trying to slow him down.
Slow what? You've been asked to do corruption risk assessment. You did that risk assessment, presented to the president. The president held the corruption risk assessment.
Why?
No, he held it, moved it back to parliament and said, go to Parliament and take a second look at Ejapa. So the implementation was not even done, owing to the corruption risk assessment by Martin Amidu.
So are you saying that his
so
description of the
any,
president as the, mother serpent of corruption?
Oh, but how will you describe someone
I'm
like
just
that?
asking you that. Are you saying that there's no truth to that?
Which truth did he mention?
Okay.
Which truth? If there are things that he mentioned that the president was involved in 1, 2, 3, 4, then you will say that indeed the president was corrupt.
Let's bring Daniel Domlevo in, for example, the embattled Auditor General as well, and his concerns about, we all saw how it played out. It was about his nationality and then his age, and for some reason he was also booted out of office.
For the first time in the history of the audit service, they had received the biggest funding to do their work and the independence for them to do their work under Akufo-Addo and any other government in the Fourth Republic. Even cars. When they went into office, they did not have even up to 10 cars. The president allowed them to buy a lot of cars, which had issues because it didn't even go through tender and few other things. So that said, but let me say that when you see that thing is stagnant, it is as a result of the considerable work that has been done over time. That's the reason it is standing at where it is today. Looking at what we had done over the years, if you check, our worst performance was in 2017. And in 2017, you know that there were scandals that erupted within that period. The Senate scandal. You remember, it was in 2017. The NCA scandal that resulted to a theft of $4.1 million was in 2017. The Maslok, you remember Sedna Tamakulu was sent to court at that time, Cocoa Board and so on. So it fuels the perception. Don't forget that this is perception. This is a corruption perception index. What people perceive. So when they hear that some politicians sat somewhere and shared among themselves $4.1 million, indeed that time is under our regime, but it was done in 2015 or 2016, but it was uncovered that year. So it tells you that the uncovering of corruption were done in 2017 and 2018. A reason you could see that on the world ranking we're 81.
But what have you done about the perception? Because you are saying that, for example, even in this case, it is a perception. As a government, you should fight that negative perception. So what have you done?
So what we have done is that, one is that we made sure that at least there were legislation that will be able to use to fight corruption. One is that we passed the Office of the Special Prosecutor Act and made it into a law. Again, the right to information law, which is currently implemented. The first draft was sent to Parliament in 1998. No government in the history of the Fourth Republic was able to pass it. It was Akufo-Addo who passed it. Today, if you need any information in any public office, you have the right to go there. That's how you fight corruption, considerably within a period of time. You don't fight it within 1 year. That is the reason you see at least there is some stability where we are. It means if we are coming down, because in fighting corruption, especially perception in people's mind, they will have to see a considerable work over time. It is when it is moving up that they can move up today. The reason is that if there is a scandal today, definitely it moves people's perception about corruption. If you check what Statistical Service and Shraj had done, they did not do perception. They did actual corruption. They interviewed 15,000 Ghanaians. They interviewed them. Have you ever paid bribe before? They said yes. Then which institution did you pay the bribe to? They mentioned the institution. They tabulated everything. They said, we lost 5.4 million. You remember the report that came. They said, we lost 5.4 million through bribe paying and so on. When you check the league, the top 20, there was no politician there. That Ghanaians admitted they gave politicians a bribe. But unfortunately, because of the scandals and some politicians who were jailed under the who were politicians affiliated to the NDC, that is the reason why every Ghanaian think a politician is corrupt.
Affiliated to the NDC?
Yes.
So are you saying that on your side, there is
no single person who has been convicted for corruption-related case in this country?
So in that case, there's nobody who is corrupt in the NPP?
I have not said that.
I'm just asking.
But
deducing from
no
what
one
you're
is
saying.
guilty until proven guilty by a competent court of jurisdiction.
Okay.
The court says that
The NCA, those who shared 4.1 million, these are Mahama appointees. The court said they were guilty, and the court sentenced them. This is just recent. In the past, you had Dana Bodapi, you had Chachu Chikata, you had Sipayanki and others. These are the people who fuel for people to think that politicians are corrupt. But if not that, when you check what Shraj had done in 2022 on corruption, the top 10 chart, you may not find a single politician. It is the police service, land commission.
Yeah, but beyond that, I mean, there have been accusations leveled against some top officials within your government.
Yes.
And sometimes you find comments that the president even makes, sort of exonerating them even before the trial begins.
There is no
or the
single
investigation
allegation. There is
and
no...
so then how are you committed to the fight against corruption if we have a president who even comes out and makes those statements?
There is no single corruption allegation that the president swept under the carpet or spoke about it and left it like that. You remember ABAJ, PPA?
Yes.
When Shraj
clearly.
did he suspended him. When Shraj did their report and submitted, he fired him. Yes.
But when the money was found in Cecilia Dape's home, for example, I'm just giving an example of that, and he released that statement, you clearly saw what he said. And so then people are asking...
So has he been exonerated?
No, but people are asking...
No, has he been exonerated?
Why do you not stay quiet? Allow the laws to take effect before you
because
pass
of the
your
information he
personal
has. He's a human being, and the information he has is that the woman did not steal state money. That was how he said. And special
So he's
prosecutor...
doing the job of
no,
the
the special
judiciary. He should allow
prosecutor
the
has
judiciary to do their
vindicated
job.
him.
Okay.
He only gave his opinion. And the special prosecutor last week vindicated him because he said that he couldn't find corruption in Cecilia Dapa's case.
Let me bring Audu in to respond to this, because Audu, you're listening to him and he's talking about the fact that, yes, if there's stagnation, then that means that whatever measures they have to put in place to ensure that corruption is being fought is being put in place, which is why we're not going lower on the poll. Do you agree?
Bella, after almost 8 years in office, I think that the only shocking revelation about the latest corruption perception index in relation to Ghana is that we are rather stagnating instead of deteriorating. To be honest with you, I think that if we had done any such survey with regards to ensuring that we found out whether it was a reality or a perception, the reality would dawn on us that indeed this is a government that has done next to nothing in as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. Remember that the campaign on corruption has always reigned supreme and very highly in our political campaigns as a country, especially in the Fourth Republic. And we have heard a number of things that people in opposition or parties in opposition or flag bearers and presidential candidates for that matter promised to come and do. If we go back and we play the tapes of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as regards what he promised to come and do in the fight against corruption, you get to understand that after almost 8 years, this particular fight has been shambolic, it has been disastrous. Indeed, this is somebody who promised to come and protect the public purse. A lot of people will tell you that as we sit now, there's not even a purse to be protected. For instance, the president said that he was coming to apply the ANAS principle in his fight against corruption. Today, the president and his appointees and his allies are the ones fighting ANAS for his modus operandi as far as the fight against corruption is concerned. You remember that your own Manasseh Azuri Awuni had to go into hiding. He had to flee from the shores of this country because this particular government or some elements within the government were after him. So I feel scandalized and surprised that my brother Awal sees nothing wrong with this particular perception, corruption perception index, our score and our performance, and he's trying as much as possible to rather paint a certain picture about His Excellency the President. Quite clearly, like I indicated, all of the things that allow for issues of corruption to keep coming up almost all the time are very ripe within this particular government. For instance, this is a president who sees nothing wrong with appointing a colossal number of his family and friends into government. We know that nepotism is a conduit for corruption, because when you have a certain relationship with people and you give them a certain kind of mandate, it is difficult for you to whip them in line. We have seen so many of the president's appointees coming from his family, and so many of them being his friends. So that could be a reason for which the president is unable to fight corruption in the way and manner in which we had expected him.
But
this is a precedent.
They say that it's also because of the deteriorating justice systems.
I'm coming there.
Okay.
This is a precedent who said that, look, they were not coming to engage procurement. They said that procurement was a major issue as far as corruption within the public sector was concerned. The president came in and they have engaged in minimal sole source contracts than they came to meet. Meanwhile, they said sole sourcing was a conduit for corruption and that he was not going to allow for it to happen. He has allowed for it to happen ever since he became president. And so if you have a judicial system that is frustrated by the conduct of the president himself, because if you put Madam Cecilia Dapa before an investigative body or a court for that matter, and even before pronouncement could be made, the president stands at a public gathering and says that he believes that the woman is innocent and that at the end of the day, the woman would have been exonerated, cleared, or discharged for that matter. You are frustrating the process, because whether we like it or not, the conduct of the president, his voice, and whatever he says carries weight. And people are very mindful in how they conduct themselves in relation to whatever posture the president takes. And so if you were to look at all of these things, you cannot but come to the conclusion that this is a government that is not committed to fighting corruption. And so for me, I am not surprised by our performance as regards the CPI for 2023. You understand? Yeah. And I'm sure that if you were to take your mics and get out onto the streets and you interview ordinary people, they will tell you that they do not have confidence in the capacity and the ability of this particular government to fight corruption.
Including the courts?
Of course. Of course, because people think that if you take these people to court, the court is supposed to adjudicate. Adjudicate in such a manner that the right punishment will be given, the right signals will be sent, and so that people may be tempted not to want to fall prey to the long arm of the courts. But if, at the end of the day, cases only go to court and they have to stagnate in courts, and that it has to take a very long time for pronouncements or judgments to be given in relation to people who have engaged in one form of corrupt act or the other, then it's enough motivation for some other people to equally want to engage in some of those acts.
But the Deputy Attorney General, for example, Alfred Tiaibua, says that if you should take a corruption case to court and you lose it, why do we always blame the judiciary or the court of law for being the one frustrating the process, when in actual fact it could be that your case was not strong enough? And even if that's the case, you can always escalate it to the next level so that you can get an appeal on the matter. So why do we blame the judicial system for the spate of corruption in the country?
On that score, let us pitch that particular statement by the Deputy Attorney General against that of the Special Prosecutor yesterday. The Special Prosecutor yesterday advocated for the establishment of specialized corruption courts. That tells you that even the man who has been clothed with a certain responsibility beyond every other person, in as far as the fight against corruption is concerned, does not have confidence in the existing courts that we have. You understand? If he had confidence, he would not be advocating for specialized courts, whether by suspicion or whether by virtue of where he sits. He has some evidence to come to that particular conclusion. I may not know, but we all heard him yesterday. He says that in order for us to win the fight against corruption, we have to take a look at establishing specialized corruption courts to deal speedily
but his
with issues of corruption.
But for example, the Special Prosecutor's predecessor, Martin Amidu, has even called him out for always running to the media, to talk about cases, when in actual fact he should remain in the background doing the actual work.
Bella, to be honest with you, I am surprised that Mr. Kisi Ajabin is still in office.
Oh, you expected that he would have resigned by now?
Of course, because you can't always go to the media, be lamenting, be complaining, and still hold on to the same position when everything shows that you are being frustrated by the same system.
But if he gives up,
that is supposed to collaborate with you.
But if he gives up, then we are the same ones that will call him out and ask why he's giving up on the fight against corruption.
When you are given an appointment into whatever office, you have the liberty to resign. When Mr. Martin Amidu resigned, what happened to him? Nothing. It means that there's something wrong in as far as the collaborative relationship between the Office of the Special Prosecutor and other agencies is concerned, especially the government of the day. And so for me, I was not surprised listening to him yesterday, with as usual coming to lament and all of that. Why? Mr. Kisi Ajabin, a fine lecturer, a fine practitioner of the law, today he's being castigated and being dragged in the mud because he elected to serve the people of Ghana.
Okay, let me bring Godwin in because, and good morning to everyone who's watching us live on Facebook. We're streaming on Facebook at TV3 Ghana, and we're also live on DSTV channel 279. And you can send your messages in the hashtag is TV3 New Day. Yeah, baby Obuasi is expressing the views and opinions of a number of people, and she says that most of the corruption perception reports are just speculations without any fact and evidence. And over time, we've heard even some government officials allude to that fact as well, that in actual fact, it's just a perception. It doesn't really paint the picture on the ground. Awal here has also made a similar statement.
Bella, let me say a very good morning to you and your viewers. Let me take this opportunity to say a very good morning to His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. He once said, time will vindicate him on so many things. And with time, this statement has come to reality. After 7 or 8 years on, it is now clear that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama indeed had the political will to fight against the act of corruption. And the reason he chalked all the successes he chalked since 2012 till he left office. And the MPP in opposition then made a lot of noise that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has left his appointees to engage in act of corruption. Now they come to power 8 years on. Their best performance has remained the worst performance of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. Wherever he is, the God he serves is indeed a great God. Bella, in the fight against corruption, it's not necessarily about the creation of offices. Neither is it about enactment of legislation.
What is it then?
But it's about the political will of the government of the day to allow institutions to work.
Okay.
Because if you create the offices and you enact legislations and the president do not allow the institutions to work, those efforts will be in vain. The kind of system we run as a country, we usually call it the executive presidency. As we speak, all the people who are fighting corruption are being fought by Jack Toronto.
Who is Jack Toronto?
Oh, you don't know Jack Toronto?
Who's that?
Oh, I'm saying that the people who are helping in the fight against corruption are being fought by Jack Toronto and the kid brother.
Who are those?
Oh, those in government, the leadership. So, I mean the president and the vice.
You've given him a name.
Oh,
a new
I
name
don't
now?
know that's the new name everybody has given them.
I know his name to be Nanano Dankwa.
And I said, don't you know that's the name they have given them?
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I'm
Why-
telling you.
why does he have
I'm
that
telling
name?
you. I will tell you after everything. I'm saying that the very people who are helping in the fight against corruption are being fought by Jack Toronto and the kid brother. One, Martin Amidu, who was appointed by the president, ended up running away from the office and describing the president as the mother serpent of corruption. Demlevo, former Auditor General, who was very committed in helping the fight against corruption. Today, where is he? Today, their very own Kisi Ejabin is all over that the government is not allowing him to work.
When did he say that?
So the question is that, do we really have to create an office because it was a political promise? Or the government really wanted to fight against corruption?
You don't think they wanted to fight?
No. One, let me tell you, the 1992 Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land, gives prosecutorial powers to the Attorney General. So if you create the OSP's office and you don't do anything about Article 88, which vests prosecutorial powers in the Attorney General, what will be the essence of the office of the OSP? Because the Constitution does not recognize him or that office to be the prosecutor for the state. I don't know if you are getting me. So it should tell you that they just did it because they had told the people of Ghana when voted into power they are going to create that. So they went ahead to do that, but are not allowing the office to operate as expected. And I'll give you instances why I tell you that the president is not willing, doesn't have the political will to fight this menace. One, why didn't you hear of Akonta mining? When the Ministry of Natural Resources had issued a statement, one of the commissions also equally supported that of the Ministry of Natural Resources, that Akonta mining did not have mining license. They only had prospecting license, but they went ahead mining. What did we hear the president do? He came as usual to clear Akonta mining. Australian visa. Pius Henam Ajide, who today wants to be voted for as an MP for Esojamine, engaged in an act of corruption which his own substantive minister implicated him and said he was the one who was in charge of the act. What did we see? Now we are told there was an investigation and there is a report. I keep asking, such reports are supposed to be public documents. They are supposed to make it available to the Ghanaian people so that we read. You see Pius going around defending it. If I was Pius, I would rather urge the president to make those documents open so that if indeed I am vindicated in the document, everybody will know. It doesn't lie in him and his government to tell us that he has been exonerated, whilst the document that exonerates him is not available for you and I, even you journalists, are not privy to that document. Yes or no?
I'm listening to you.
2, Cecilia Dapa, a home minister, public officer, who we have found $1 million in her home. Aside the $1 million, there are other monies which were taken. Some were even taken in an envelope that she herself was even shocked that such quantum of money were in her office, home. Sorry.
She was shocked?
Yes. That's what the OSP said. She was surprised some of the monies they even found in her home. And look at the letter, the love letter both of them wrote to each other. A public officer who is engaged or perceived to have been engaged in an act that has made her to have those monies in her home. And a president wants to reply her letter. You see the president talking about issues of flimsy issues in the letter.
How is it flimsy? I mean,
no, because you see, if the president indeed wants to fight corruption, go ahead. I'm very sure you have read the letter.
I have.
Is that how the tonation of the letter should be? In reply of the Siliadapa.
Are you reading it with a tone? Maybe you are reading it with your own tone. How should that letter have been written?
That is why I've asked you. When you read it, did you see it to be a letter?
How
being replied to somebody who is going through an investigation by an OSP? Is that how the tonation should be?
So what should it have been? That's what I'm asking you.
You said?
What should it have been? And producers, if you can pull up that letter so that we can
let them read.
Again. We will pull it up.
Or you read?
We'll pull it up. No, but that's why I'm asking that. You have also read the letter, so you are privy to the details.
This is actually a love letter from a lady to a guy or a man, and the man equally replying
these
the woman.
Are two married people.
He said,
so these are two
no,
married people. I'm just putting that. Yes,
I understand you. But you should understand what.
Don't worry, hold on a while. You come in.
2, the Crow and Associate contract. It was due to this whole contract that the president decided not to allow Martin Amidu to work.
Daniel Domelevo.
Sorry,
the former Auditor General.
Sorry, Domelevo.
Yes.
He decided to go into the investigation of Crow and Associates, whether indeed the monies paid to them were worth that money. And indeed, if they worked, that work they did, they were supposed to be paid that money. It was through Crow and Associates that they have to go after the Auditor General. And today, the Auditor General is nowhere to be found. Let's look at galamsey issues. Galamsey issues, as we all know, should we put one excavator in this room? I don't think it can even have access to this room. But over 500 excavators cannot be found since, I think, 2018 to date. And the president has decided not to make sure that we see to whoever is responsible to the missing of those excavators.
So the rot is from the leadership.
That is it. That is the baseline, because you need a political will to be able to fight this corruption. And so far, there is all indications that Jack Toronto and the kid brother
President
are not ready to fight corruption. And whenever they sit on set, whenever they sit on set,
hold on,
what they proud themselves of is that they've established the office of the special prosecutor. They've passed the information bill and all other stuff. But I keep saying that. Is that enough?
But if you listen to the head of Yoko, she says that even though there are people who are accusing some of these public officials of being corrupt, when it comes to gathering evidence, they don't want to come up and speak further on the matter.
I don't agree with Tiwa. Is that not Tiwa?
Yes.
Yes, because the Whistleblowers Act makes provision for the protection of the whistleblower. It is the responsibility of the government to protect whoever makes those allegations. So if I realize that should I blow any whistle, I will not be protected. Why should I have to do that? So it is not a one-way affair. I don't know whether you are getting me. So the president and the government must be ready to protect you and I, so that anybody who would allege can be protected. If not, people will just say it. But if you tell me to come and adduce evidence, I won't come because my life will be at stake. And even there are some instances, the same officers will be those going around telling the accused person it is Kofi or Yao who came to report you.
All right, quick one. Let's just pull up that letter. Okay, I thought it was ready. I thought it was ready. But back to you a while. Now, listen. So the former sanitation minister has not been exonerated at this point. Now, what the special prosecutor said was that they could not link the monies that they seized from her to issues of corruption, but rather money laundering, and it is not their office that's supposed to handle the issue of money laundering, which is why they suspect, yes, which is why they passed it on, which is why they passed it on to Iyoko to be the one to investigate.
Yes,
so she has not been cleared.
It's on suspicion of money laundering, but not corruption.
But she has not been cleared.
But everyone on this table is saying that that was a corrupt deal.
Do you want to admit then that earlier?
No, but I'm saying that I said she has been cleared of corruption.
She has been cleared of corruption.
Exactly,
because
not money laundering.
Cannot link it to corruption.
Exactly.
So that means that she's been
But
cleared.
he has done the work over time. Let me come. I'm coming. What he was talking about that the witnesses are not being prosecuted. You should update yourself and understand that. In 2018, the Witness Protection Act has been was passed under Akufo-Addo. That if you are a witness and you go and become a whistleblower, you are protected, and there are things that you are even given.
Supposed to be protected.
My brother,
yes,
you didn't say anything when you were giving your time.
Hold on, gentlemen. Please let me.
You were only talking. You didn't say anything.
You say you are protected.
Exactly. There is a Witness Protection Act that was that was passed in 2018. In 2018, it was passed, so that is there to at least protect. Again, when you talk about corruption, perception. He said, President Mahama was fighting corruption. We said he was not fighting corruption because he was indeed corrupt. He himself was corrupt. We did not pay lip service as they are paying lip service to Akufo-Addo. Almost all the things they say here are lip service. That
How?
And they are perceptions because there was no conviction, a single conviction.
So once there's no conviction, it should remain a perception.
But how do you categorize it?
So no member in your government
Let me come. When we said President Mahama was
answer the
not
question. No member in your government is corrupt?
Why do you want to put me on the spot like that? I'm telling you that.
I'm asking you a question.
There is no single member of my party who has been convicted of corruption.
Okay.
This is a matter of public records.
I see.
When we said former President Mahama,
former
President Mahama was not fighting corruption, and he was indeed corrupt, and he had appointees who were corrupt, those days in opposition we mentioned it. When we came to government, we walked the talk. 3 people, as I speak right now, who were his appointees are languishing in jail. William Tivie, Bafu Boni. They are in jail today because of the NCA scandal. These are his appointees. This is what I want to hear. Someone even going to court to say that indeed these, when he mentioned Pius, you can go to court. Martin Amidu went to court when he was just at home. He went to court to fight Woyomi. So when you hear people say that you need political will, what is political will? In passing, if it's not political will, how can a president, a draft of a legislation that will give you, the journalist, the opportunity to go into any office and demand any document you want? The draft was in 1998. It dragged till Akufo-Addo's regime to pass the right to information law. You are telling me that it doesn't have the political will?
You're telling me that person who passed the Right to Information law that mandates you, that gives the journalists and every Ghanaian the opportunity to go and access information, does not have political will? Where did Ajabin say he's being frustrated by the executive? Where?
He didn't say by the executive. He said the judiciary. In fact, he's had some
so the
legal
judiciary,
friends who have come to him.
So you attack Akufo-Addo for if the judiciary is frustrating him? How do you do that? How do you correlate that? That indeed it's Akufo-Addo is the executive that is frustrating because judiciary is frustrating him.
But since he
Can
made
you
that
imagine
statement,
this warp logic?
Since he made that statement, for example, what has government even done about
What government is able to do? What government is
goes through and it's much
what
easier
government
for him.
is supposed to do is to give him the enabling environment. We've given him
Have
that.
you given him that?
Yes.
You have?
We've given him the office. He has recruited 400 people.
So why
Matanamidu was even crying of salary, but now they have their salaries.
Why did you hound Domilevo out then?
Who hounded Domilevo out?
Was he not hounded out?
How old is he
over
today?
His nationalism
How old is he today?
And over his
How
age?
old was he then? How old was he then? 60. Even with the changed date of birth, he was 60.
But we're seeing,
with the first change of death, he was 61. So how do you tell me that he has been hounded out?
So Honorable Sam George, for example, is asking about another person's age, and in fact, a member of your party is saying that question is not even necessary. And so you see, it's as if when it suits you, it's okay.
So the question is that,
but when it doesn't,
now
when
you have asked me a question. You have asked me a question. I've given you an answer. You have jumped another place.
I'm not jumping.
I'm telling you that Domilevo was not hounded out. Domilevo went to court, and the court even told him that because of the work that he does, that's the reason they have not even sent him to custodial contempt when he had a contempt of court. This is a matter of public records. In this country, Domilevo went to court because the court said that he breached the natural justice rule, that he didn't give Osafo Manfo the fair hearing. And this is it. We are not saying that we're not fighting. We will not say we are fighting corruption with lip service. We're fighting corruption with all the institutions that are necessary to fight corruption, and that's what every civilized country does. Well, again, what Dr. Bawumia is doing today, the championing with the digitalization that Dr. Bawumia is doing, is fighting corruption as well. Because if you check, even IMF is saying that when you use digitalization, you'll be able to fight corruption. Let me give you a simple scenario. When you go to DVLA, over the past 5, 6, 7 years, or even 20 years, when you go to DVLA, when you check the Auditor General's report, most of the infractions come from DVLA, passport office, the ports, and so on. Today, go and check the Auditor General's report. Because we have completely digitalized these places, you have lesser corruption in these places than today. So this is something that we are doing. We are talking about solutions to the problem, not lip service to our problems.
Well, Evans Dinko from Garu says that the men who had every theory against corruption today in government have failed in every sector. So why would they not fail in corruption? It's a perception.
Yes, because there is no single person who has been convicted. The convicted politicians are NDC people. I've mentioned 3 people who are in jail today. I've mentioned 3 people who are in jail today who are convicted of corruption, and they are NDC and Mahama appointees. There is no single appointee of Akufo-Addo today. Because I remember in 2008, the NDC in 2008 did the same thing. Fuel the perception, said they are corrupt, they are corrupt. They came for 8 years, they couldn't convict a single person. Got 1 person convicted for even corruption. You remember Asabi, he was going to airport, he was arrested in airport. You remember Osei and almost all the people, they went to court and they were exonerated.
And they were voted out.
They were exonerated.
And they were voted out.
Exactly. So we're not corrupt because the corrupt politicians are the NDC people.
But I mean, in cases where people have said that the ruling that came for a particular matter was probably, because of who was involved. And so that's why people are calling the judiciary to a large extent, the system that's fighting corruption, against corruption, and making sure that we get to that point where we get rid of corruption completely. Do you agree?
Well, I am surprised that Awal thinks that the actions of the judiciary cannot be linked to the executive. We all know the circumstances under which judges are appointed in this country. And we have seen judges who have suffered in the hands of the government as a result of the kind of judgments they pass. And so there's a certain level of intimidation even from the executive, to the extent that to the extent that when you were
Please
talking,
allow. Please
allow. Your former general secretary.
You always do
Your
this.
former general secretary, who is
always
called when there as a result of corruption.
When you were
general
making your
secretary?
statements, he was not.
You always do this.
Your general secretary.
You always do this.
Relax.
You always do this.
Awal,
You always
It's
do
in
this.
Supreme
cannot
Court.
continue
Awal,
this,
you cannot be
Allow
doing
him to
this.
speak.
You
He
can,
didn't
what did I
start
start?
anything. Relax.
People are watching the
Allow him to speak.
People are. You insulted me, but I
Carry
kept
on.
quiet.
Carry on.
Where did I
You
insult
told
you?
me I was only talking. I didn't say anything.
Exactly.
It's an
because
insult.
You did not adduce
It's an
any
insult.
evidence to what you were
It's
saying.
an insult. You don't have that monopoly over
Please carry on.
insults.
Please carry on.
Remember that.
I don't do
And I'm surprised if at your level you come and sit here and think that the judiciary cannot be, the actions of the judiciary cannot be linked to the conduct of the executive. Like I indicated, we know the circumstances under which judges are appointed in this country. And to the extent that the executive and the government, for that matter, still has a certain stranglehold on some of these judges, you will see judgments going in a certain manner. And so, if you have a government that wants to whitewash its appointees and to give itself a certain name, and that particular government goes every level and goes every limit to ensure that its own appointees are not implicated by judgments of the court, because you are in government and you can't sit here and you cite examples of past events of some other appointees who have not been members of your government, and that is the basis for which you think that the perception that your government is corrupt cannot hold, that then I don't know what you are talking about. Beyond that, you are talking about Domelevu. The final judgment by the court as regards Domelevu indicated that he had the case, just that the judgment came late, after he had already been hounded out of office. So it does not lie within anybody's mouth to say whether Domelevu was hounded out of office or not. Like you indicated today, you have sitting members of parliament and ministers attempting to defend an appointee of the president, whose age is a matter of question at no less a forum but at the Public Accounts Committee. Meanwhile, it was the same thing you did to Domelevu. It was a matter of his age. So what has changed? So clearly, this is a government that does next to nothing in as far as the fight against corruption is concerned.
Next to nothing. Please land on this for me, Godwin,
Bella,
so that we can move on.
Let me repeat this statement that the mere fact that you enact a law, you need the political will to make sure that the laws work.
So if, for example,
there
not
is
to
that.
cut you, but if, for example, like the special prosecutor is saying, we need, an anti-corruption court to prosecute corruption cases. You're saying that without the will of, the leadership in government, we will not make any progress.
We just need a political will. So making reference to laws that are supposed to protect whistleblowers, that is what the law says. But the question I am asking is that how it is being applied? The answer is no. So stop making references to how the laws are supposed to do. You must rather give instances where people have been protected. And I'm telling you that is why most people will just report, but when it comes to adducing of evidence, they will go hiding because their lives are at stake. 2, I am very shocked at Awal when he decides to talk about Domelevu's age, which my brother alluded to. Today, we have the commissioner of Ghana Revenue Service, whose age is more than the 60 years, but law allows for a contract. He is working for good 2 years without a contract document. And Awal sees nothing to that, but rather want to talk about Domelevu's own. Domelevu had an appointment letter, and everything he did was legit. My next point is on the judiciary.
Make it brief for me.
Let me tell you for a fact, it is clear that today, politically known people are being appointed to the judiciary. MPP communicators, some are being appointed to the judiciary. And this issue has come to the fore for discussion. It's a trite knowledge. So if you have people of that nature being appointed to the judiciary, what else do you expect when political cases goes to court? My last point, and I will end, is on the perception. This is not the first time the Integrity Initiative people are coming up with the Corruption Perception Index. It had started even way before His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. They made noise about it. They said through that index, John Mahama was not fighting corruption. Today, the same index that you relied on to judge His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is now judging you as the worst government who has decided to go sleep in the fight against corruption. You are talking about the fact that it's just a mere perception.
Okay.
This government isn't ready, and that is why today Kennedy in Japan has said that the government of the day are looting the state as if there is no tomorrow. They are looting the state, stealing the state money as if there is no tomorrow.
Okay.
And this is where we find ourselves as a country.
Well, I did promise that we'll bring up that letter. So let's do that quickly, just under 1 minute, and then we can move on. So that letter that was written from the office of the president to Madame Cecilia Dapa. So, well, that's it. Maybe we'll have to zoom in so you can read. And Gordon, this is for you because you were talking about how this is a love letter. But what would you have preferred, or how would you have preferred that this letter is written?
The president should have been rebuking Cecilia Dapa. Let me give you one example. When John Mahama, I remember, is it Vicky Hammer? And the elsewise John Dramani Mohammed's administration. When she even said it is her dream that she would get $1 million within 4 years. Just a dream. She never had that money. She never made a step for which anybody can direct you. But John Mahama said, as a public officer, such commentaries are not required of you. And for that matter, go sit somewhere. This is why John Mahama chalked good performances when it comes to the ranking, because he was bold. He had a political will. First of all, let me tell you, Bas Brandon, it is on record that under the office of the former chief of staff, Julius Debra, they made sure that the differences in the payment was refunded to the government of Ghana.
And nobody suffered for that. And nobody suffered for that.
Okay.
So if you don't
know, if I steal and I pay,
they made sure that everyone was the differences were refunded back to the state.
Okay. I hear.
So this is the government
Let's
who
move
had
on.
the political will to fight against corruption. And not what the
Let's move on and talk about that 15% VAT.